local, county, state, federal, and other states together and try to develop a better communication vehicle so that we could look at the supply side. So that if you want to understand how this all came about, we spend about $76 million a year on prevention, prevention and treatment. We spend very little, if nothing, on education, and we spend roughly $3 to $3.5 million on law enforcement. Much of what I heard the Attorney General say is correct. Much of what I heard her say is not quite the intent of this summit, since the Commissioner and I were involved in developing it. The whole purpose of the summit initially was for law enforcement to get a better communication vehicle through the limited resources that we have. We got 4 agents that the legislature graciously gave us. That will cover Portland. That will help us in Portland. But it doesn't do much for the corridor doing Kittery and Holton. We are in dire need. And in fact, next week I'm likely to approach the leadership to ask an emergency meeting to give us more resources. And if not, I will be forced to call up the National Guard. The issue here is this. Once the summit got together, they decided that we'd have 3 arms, 3 subcommittees. Education, which I strongly recommend we continue on, we pay serious attention to. Treatment. It is not the intent of this administration or law enforcement to incarcerate addicts. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to prevent the heroin, particularly the doses, the potency of some of the heroin that's coming into the state that are killing people. Just last week alone, we've had 19 arrests, 8 potential or alleged overdoses, just in the last week. It's happening every day. People think it's about 200. I will tell you that from the doctors we're talking to, and from the hospitals we're talking to, it's probably a lot higher. I'm not sure that we're not reaching a death a day, and we know that we're getting 3 births a day addicted to heroin. We are not doing enough on the supply side. We're doing, and if you don't address the issue, there's no amount of money on the demand side or on the treatment side that's going to solve this problem. If you look at national statistics, the heroin addiction in this country, the success rate is somewhere around 10%. 10%. So 1 person out of 10, you're going to clean up. The death toll is much greater than 1 out of 10. We are killing our children. We are killing our babies. We don't even know what the effect is going to be on the children that are being born today, what they're going to be at 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. The demand, and then I also heard today about jails, incarceration in jails. We have pretrial incarcerations because we don't have enough resources. It's that simple. It is that simple, folks. You can agree, disagree, it makes no difference. But every day you're going to see more dead people. Every day you're going to see more guys like Smooth and AK and PK and Scummy and Shifty coming up from Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, and it's going to continue. You have to address this in all aspects: education, treatment, and law enforcement. And let me tell you, the last thing we want to do is put drug addicts in jail. We want to put them in treatment, but we don't have the resources. One thing the Attorney General said is correct. We don't have a place to send them. Just like we don't have a place to send human trafficking victims. I was with detectives yesterday talking about that same issue. And you said, why is he bringing up human trafficking? Because it's all due to the drugs. That's the issues. We need to get onto the streets, and we can sit here and talk all day, but the issue is on the streets. The issue is dead bodies at the morgue. The issue is babies being born. And we need to address the law enforcement. Now, last thing I want is put drug addicts in jail because they need treatment. But the people we're after aren't drug addicts. They're business people. They're dealers. They sell it. Like the people last weekend at the Senator here in Augusta. Those are the people we're after. These people don't use drugs. They sell drugs. And those people, I would like to get them off the street. I would like to put them, if I have to incarcerate them at a maximum security prison, one on top of the other, if I can clean the streets, I'd be most happy to do that. But we need to save our citizens. And the Attorney General is correct. It did start with pills. And it continues to be pills, but they're not prescription pills. They're pill mills coming out of Florida, coming out of Georgia, coming out of Texas. And we are working, and this whole summit is part of that whole issue to develop intel to try to figure out where they are in Florida, Texas. And the federal government, the federal agents are helpful in that respect. So the whole purpose is threefold. But if you think that we're going to be having a long, comprehensive strategic plan, that's not my intent. That wasn't the Commission's intent. Commission's intent is find intel and get the dealers off the street. Continue to do what we can with the resources that are provided for treatment, and we do need and will develop an education for our schools. And we want to start at the middle schools. And if need be, we'll even go down to primary school, but I'm hoping that we can start at middle school and do the job there. But we do need a lot more work in education. And the prescription monitoring program, I will say that the mandatory, what we've done in the last couple of years, we have been able to cut opiate prescribing by 50%. I think that's wonderful. We need to do more. And that's going to help us. But yes, as you said, Senator Cates, heroin is replacing it. And if you speak to doctors, like Dr. Diaz, the Maine General, which I think would be advisable for this committee to have him come in and talk about where this is going to end. He tells me that we're going to peak out in a couple of years, and by 2022, we might get a handle on heroin.
That's a long ways off.
That's a long ways off, and that's why we need to attack the supply side. Maine is a very easy and profitable state to sell heroin. You can get $20, $25 down in the southern part of the state. You get to Bangor, it's up to 40, and you get to Periscope, you get 50 bucks. It's really a bad drug. And the problem is the potency is such that it's killing a lot of people. So that's where we are with this summit. It was intended as a communication approach to develop better communication between law enforcement within the state, the federal, and other states. It evolved into the treatment side and the education side, which I absolutely welcome. But the law enforcement, with limited resources, we are going to try to do more with limited resources. And I will tell you, the supply side is where we're going after. I'll answer any questions you might have.
I'll start right off. You mentioned having or gathering leadership to talk about having more resources, and with that, you said also that if not, then the National Guard. When you're talking about more resources, what are we talking about?
We need 10 more agents.
10 more.
And we need more DAs, and we need more judges. We had asked, we had a need of a couple dozen, we cut it in half, and you funded a quarter of it. And I'll tell you, I'm not one that likes to pad things. When I said we needed 14 agents, we need 14 agents. As a matter of fact, after what I've been seeing lately, if we had 20 to catch up, I think we can make an impact by next spring. if you see the work that the DEA agents are doing, and with the intel they're getting from the federal government, it is becoming rampant in Maine because what's so profitable. Because in Connecticut, they're getting 15, 20 bucks a shot. A hit for heroin. I don't know how you explain it, but I don't take the stuff, so.
That's good. Also, you touched on the treatment aspect, and you, to me, you alluded to the fact that we don't have enough treatment options, and that's as part of a addiction task force that's formed in South Paris that I've been attending. And everything, it all comes back to treatment. Don't have the treatment options. I mean, when our group is attended by some addicts and some recovering addicts and parents of addicts.
Correct.
And you know, when from the South Paris area traveling to Westbrook to get some kind of treatment, to me it's like, you know, that becomes quite a barrier, and that was one of the things that I personally was tasked with, was finding out the treatment options for the Oxford Hills area, Western Maine.
Right.
And it's obvious that there's not a whole lot out there.
That is absolutely correct.
And what's the solution? Do you have a?
We need a solution. We have a few options where you can put in-house, inpatient resources to try to help people. There's one elsewhere. There's St. Andre, I believe, has one for, it's human trafficking, but it's mostly drugs. There are no resources out there. Inpatient is enormously expensive, and there's no beds for those as well. In fact, what we really need, and what the medical profession, and you can call physicians in, they will tell you, they're trying to get the treatment aspect over to the general physician, the general practitioners, and treat it as outpatient, so that the people don't get stigmatized in being in an in-house facility, and when they leave, they're stigmatized by the public. They're trying to do it as low-key as they can, but I will tell you one thing. They do not have the answer for the success rate. It takes a willing patient with a whole lot of support, both public support, community support, family support, to keep them clean. One of the biggest things they tell us is you got to get them in a different environment. They can't go back to their friends because their friends have been the problem in the first place. So there are many, many different things that are happening. And this is a dynamic, growing problem because it fosters the whole issue of human trafficking. I always thought human trafficking was people who go into prostitution to feed their drug habit. But it isn't that way. It's pimps forcing people, women, to go and prostitute themselves, and they get on the drugs so they can do it. It's just the opposite of what I thought it was. We need to start getting really educated to this problem in this state. And there's some bad people out there that are addicting our people. I've heard about the Narcan. The minority leader in the Republican caucus in the House has a videotape, a flash tape of 2 incidences of Narcan. One was a gentleman going 94 miles an hour on 295. He was pulled over. The officer comes up and he gets the information, goes back to his car, and he sees the person go boom. So he gets out of the car and goes in. He was overdosing. They called for emergency. They came in. They gave him a shot of Narcan. It was his 10th shot this year. 10th shot. We have a lady who's had 8 shots. Then we have another incident on that tape. There was a state trooper who pulls a car over. He's suspicious that there are drugs in it. He starts to ask if he can inspect the car. The gentleman takes him and tries to push him in front of an oncoming transport van. Thank God the driver was alert. He stopped and helped the officer put him in cuffs. He was a dealer. He was not a user. So this is what we're facing out there. We can all talk about it till hell freezes over, excuse my language, but the issue is John Morris, the Commissioner of Public Safety, Mr. McKinney and DEA, the Sheriff's Departments, and the local law enforcement people understand what is happening to our children. And they're fighting it.
When I hear from the Oxford County Sheriff about so many ODs, particularly in the Rumford area, he says, you know, common thing that he says to me is, you need to get the needle out of their arm.
You're absolutely correct. I have a very, very close friend who told me his daughter is addicted. And she was addicted to pills. So he sent her to an in-house treatment facility out of state. She came back addicted to heroin. It is a pervasive problem.
Representative Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Governor, for coming in today. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. This is an issue that is as important to me in my district as it is to you. I'm sure you hear from hundreds more people because you represent the whole state than what I see in my little district. And I know that the people of Maine want us to move, and I'm so excited to have you in the room because this is how we demonstrate the will to work together to make sure that we address this problem. And I assure you,
all we need is an invitation.
yeah, and I assure you that we really want to know what we can do on all sides of this issue. Because as you know, as a businessman, business people don't sell where there's no market. And we can arrest Shorty, we can arrest Slim, but there's always going to be somebody right behind them to try to make that money to feed off other people's addictions. And I want them in jail as much as you do. But you talked a little bit earlier about the issues of treatment and around education. And we really do see the lack of treatment. And when we get a budget that has supply side issues, I'm all with that. I'm all behind that. But where is the budget for the treatment side?
$76 million was spent in 2014 on treatment in various programs around the state. I will tell you one thing. If you want some advice, and I'm sure many of you know that, take the methadone and get rid of it, and take that money and put it into treatment facilities where you have doctors on the premise and work with addicts. There's a facility in Ellsworth. They do marvelous work. And I have met several of the addicts that went in there, came back out. Women that had lost their children, now they got them back. They're clean. One lady I met who had lost her children, she's got clean. She's been clean for 5 years. She got her children back. She's remarried. She got a job. That's the success rate. But it's so small. The cost of treatment and the success rate, be ready for disappointments because it is really, really, really very difficult. The heroin that's on the streets is very difficult to clean people up with. So what we need is, rather than have places where people come in and get their weekly supply and leave, we need to put we need some facilities for in-house people to put them in that inpatient environment, not a hospital setting, but a detox setting. That's where we need to have the money. And we're not doing any of that.
Thank you, Governor. I look forward to seeing proposals from your administration on all three areas, education, treatment, and the law enforcement side. And I would just put my nickel in for this. For 20 or more years, I've been involved in groups at the local level around the state who have been saying for 10 years or more, we're going to see an epidemic on this side of things because we were seeing the overprescription of the painkillers, and we were seeing that we weren't providing enough opportunities for education and real prevention out in our community. So I do look forward to working with you on this, and I look forward to seeing recommendations on all three sides of this issue.
Well, I hope you understand what we're working on here. This summit is not to put a strategic plan together. This is a working operation that we're gonna be going. I put up a budget last year. I've been in government for 5 years. I've put up budgets every year. The only budget I've ever been able to put a pen to was in 2011. I will tell you folks, whatever you pass as a budget, I will live with. There are no supplementals. We live with what you give us from now on. And if the budget that we had last year, I thought was a superb budget, was moving us in the right direction, I am not going there anymore. I am going to work with the resources that you provide me, and we will do the best we can do with what we have. Right now, we're spending $3 million on law enforcement. It's not enough. I'm asking you right now to go back to the budget and give us the 10 people we should have, more DAs, more judges. It was in the budget. I don't need to put it, I already put it out there. As far as treatment, we're spending somewhere around $76 million. We're going to continue to spend every dollar we are given. As far as education, we are going to, through the Department of Education, put some programs in play around the state, in our school systems, about drugs. So, what this whole summit was about taking whatever we have for resources and see how we can stretch it. That's what we're trying to do. I am open to sit down and tell you what we need for DEA agents. I will tell you one other thing that nobody wants to address is the Department of Environmental Protection do the cleanups on meth labs. We were at 43 this year. It's 10,000 a meth lab. That's $400,000 that's gone. This thing is, it's not just drugs. It's the overall impact of drugs and what they do to our society. Timberlake, see what you got me into?
Senator Valentino.
It's my pleasure, Governor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Governor, for being here. I just wanted a clarification. You had said that you were going to talk with legislative leaders on
Yes.
this. And so I assume then you will talk to them. You have not talked to them as of this time.
That is correct. We put out a press release yesterday. Next week, we're working on it now. I'm going to be out this afternoon and tomorrow for some surgery, so I can't do it this week. But next week, I will call them to ask you, Paul, to come back into session and to give me resources for the MDEA. If you choose not to, that's fine. But I will use my authority as the Commander-in-Chief and the Governor to call an emergency if I need to attack the supply side.
Okay. Just following through, Governor, on that. When you said that you're going to be talking with legislative leaders, I assume it's from both sides of the aisle then?
I always talk to both sides. I'll send them all a letter.
You'll send them all a letter and they'll all be welcome then to come in and do that. So you're hoping to address this situation when we come back into session for a confirmation hearing?
No.
When?
This is going to happen next week, folks. You either work with me and give me some agents, or I will call the guard out.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Then following through then, Governor, you're saying that you're not submitting a supplemental budget.
That is correct.
And you're not submitting a governor's bill. So to have something properly before the legislature, what is your vehicle going to be?
My vehicle is going to be with the existing resources we have, and when we run out, I'll let you know. Because I am not going to continue to just have the year that we had last year. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in politics. I'm not interested in going around and fighting and arguing and all this crap. I have a job to do for 1.4 million people, and I am going to do the best I can with the resources I'm given. If you give me adequate resources, I will do an adequate job. If I don't have adequate resources, I will do the best I can with what I have.
And Governor, just to follow through, you said that if you do not get the resources, you said that you would call up the National Guard. And I'm just wondering, in what capacity does the National Guard have the authority to work
All officers.
the drugs. I'm just wondering, is it only from intel? Are you talking about undercover? And if you call up the National Guard, how would they work on this drug situation legally?
Legally, ma'am, the National Guard, the government can call up the National Guard, and all the officers of the National Guard are automatically law enforcement officers. And I will call up the officers of the National Guard. And I will call up as many as the NDEA and the state police tell me that we need. Currently, we have 33 open positions in the state police. We cannot even cover our state on weekends.
Representative Timberlake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Governor, for being here. I think what I understand out of the comment that you was making was that you was going to talk to leadership on both sides and ask them if they could put in an out-of-session bill that would help.
Now, I'm going to ask them to come into session and to deal with this issue. Folks, the governor has the ability to put bills in, but they never pass. This is what's been happening. And I may not be the brightest bulb on earth, but I do understand finance, and I do understand how to turn situations around. And I'm going to ask you to give me the resources I need. I need 10 officers. I need more judges. Matter of fact, we could use 6 more judges. We could use another 10 DAs. But I'm right now concerned about 2 things. I'm concerned about getting the business people who bring drugs to our state off the streets. I'm interested in getting people out of jail and into treatment that need treatment. And when the dollars are gone, the dollars are gone. You're the only ones that can appropriate dollars. I can't. I can ask for them, but that doesn't mean anything. It hasn't for 5 years.
And as I understand, continue with the question, and I never quite got finished. The Governor, but somehow we have to have a vehicle to get that there, and calling us into session is part of the vehicle.
True.
But with that has to be a bill.
Mm-hmm.
So it either has to come.
You want to sponsor it?
Yes.
Good. Then we have a sponsor. We have a second.
I'll take care of the Senate sponsorship.
But yes, but we have to have a vehicle to get it there. So the question is, I think the question was are we going to ask leadership to put the bill forward, or are you going to put the bill forward? Because it's got to be agreed to somehow. And I think that was the question that I understand from some of the whatever the question.
If the leadership is interested in dealing with the issue now, which is something we've been trying to deal with, the first time I brought it up, folks, was March of 2014. Is the first time I asked for more DEA agents. The problem is getting progressively worse, exponentially worse. It's a pandemic now in the state of Maine. And so now I'm saying I have to do something. If the legislature won't call themselves in, won't come in, then I will call a guard up. They can come in, we can sit down, we can give them what we need. You know, it's $42,000 a DEA agent. I need 10, it's $423,000. Plus expenses, make round it off 500, I'd be happy. Give me 3 or 4 more DAs, particularly in certain counties, and we can identify those counties for you. And the judges, we need more judges to deal with things. The problem with the judges is a lot of civil activity is not happening. I'm sure you've heard about your county where you can't get adoptions done. So it's just a problem that just grows. And we've been on it now since March of 2014. It is really serious. Representative Grant, you mentioned your community, and you're absolutely right. I hear every single day from someone, or someone else is dying, or someone is brain dead because they overdosed, but they're still their life on life supports. This is a real issue. And frankly, there comes a point in time, and I will agree, I am a businessman, I'm more apt to go take actions when I think we need to do something. Now's the time. We have to do something. I'm willing to, whatever the legislature wants to do, I'm in, as long as I know they're gonna do something quickly.
And I thank you for the response, and I would take it with that your administration would be available to help us find through that budget where that money would come from, and help us locate it, and they always take it from the elections, because we must have not enough money there, so.
So, yeah.
So that's not
It's a
a
good thing
problem.
it didn't pass in 2010, I'll tell you that. It would have cost you $34 million for a governor's race.
Thank you.
Further questions? Representative Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, Governor, I am so pleased that you are here, because this is how real discussion happens and real government happens. And I still hope that, because you've mentioned it and because we've seen it, and I've heard it in my phone calls from my constituents, there's still people dying because they don't have access to effective treatment. And I do hope that we will see a plan from those other subgroups on the treatment side so that we can start to address that very dire need as well. But I'm beating a dead horse here. And the other thing I wanted to say again was, along with how glad I am that you're here, this certainly shows the importance of this subject to you and your administration. We also know that you can't be with us every day like this and have this kind of rich discussion. So I do hope that this is a sign that the folks who work for you and answer to you will be available to us as we deliberate other really important issues, so that we can make good decisions together and govern and give the people of Maine what they need. So I hope that this is a positive sign, and at least I'm interpreting as
Yeah.
thank you.
I would say this about other people coming here. Two things. One is the reason I'm requesting things in writing is to have a record or dialogue, because while I don't read newspapers, people on my staff read newspapers, and much of what comes out of government is incorrect, number one. Number two, and I will ask you all very respectfully, when people come in from my administration, sometimes there's a frustration to get at me, but you did very disrespectful to some of the commissioners that have works for the administration. And I would ask that you show respect and that we can have a great dialogue. But if the disrespect and some of the things that have happened to Mary Mayu, for instance, Commissioner Mayu, Commissioner Fitzpatrick recently, unacceptable. We will not participate in that. I am not interested in political points. I'm interested in action.
Senator Longino?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Governor, just to follow up on, you had mentioned, when I mentioned what vehicle, and I think there is going to have to be a vehicle for us to take it up, as Representative Timberlake said. You also said that you were planning on doing it within existing resources. And so what I'm just wondering, if you do it within existing resources, do you have an idea of where you're planning on getting this money? If you're asking for additional funds, to me, $42,000 for a DEA agent does not seem realistic, because just obviously you have to add in all the other costs that go with it, everything else. So it's not just $42,000. It's all the health, the insurance, all that stuff that you have to
No,
add
you
in.
can also contract.
Plus what?
You could contract,
Contract out.
yes.
So what you're, okay, contract out. And so then the next thing would be, where are you planning on suggesting getting these funds from? Is there a revenue reproduction? Obviously, as you're aware, the devil is in the details. Representative Timberlake says take from the Clean Election Fund. Well, I'm not going to vote for that. So
Then don't put DEA agents up.
where are you planning on recommending taking the money from?
What I'm planning to do, ma'am, is this. We have resources now. Whatever resources we have, we're going to expend it to the fullest extent that I can and do as much as I can with what I have. When I run out of money, I lay people off. I don't know where you want, I don't appropriate money. I just tell you I need money. If you want to sit down and help you, I can. I've done budgets every year, they're balanced, but they never pass. And then we get ourselves in situations where we work with less resources, or more resources.
So your suggestion then basically is to appropriate the money and for the appropriations committee to find where to make reductions in the budget?
Well, it's your budget. I mean, the budget that I'm working under is not my budget. It is the appropriations budget, and I don't know how you did it. If you ask for my help on how to get the money, I will more than happy to do that. But I don't know where it's gonna come from. I had it in my budget. I had the agents in there. My budget was cut. And I don't know where you spent all the money because I haven't been able to figure it out yet. But I will be more than happy to sit with whomever you ask that we work together to try to get the money. I will tell you this, right now, it's more valuable. DEA agents are far more valuable than a whole lot of other stuff we spend money on, including clean elections.
Okay, and just my final question. We're meeting, the Senate is meeting November 19th. And obviously there's an expense to call us all back into session. You don't feel that this can wait until November 19th?
It can wait whenever you want, I don't care.
No, you said you weren't gonna do it on the 19th, you wanted to do it next week.
What I said was, I am gonna call and get in contact with the leadership next week. They can tell me when they do it, I don't care when they do it, but if they respond like they have been for the last year and a half, like, I'll get back to you, then I will take action.
Thank you, Governor.
Proceed.
Senator Cates?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor, thank you for being here. And I
You
appreciate
don't mean that, Roger.
I do. This has been helpful. But I did want to ask you about another aspect of this. I think we all have a better understanding now about why you brought forward the task force. I think it's been very helpful to understand that. But as you said, education and treatment have to be part of an overall approach to this. Maybe not right this second.
That's correct.
You think enforcement needs immediate attention. But in terms of an overall strategy going forward, not next week, but next year or the year after, how do you see that happening? Is that something that the legislature ought to be convening a work group to do? Is that something the administration ought to be proposing? Where should that long-term planning be coming from?
Frankly, I believe that what resulted from the summit is a good start, and I like what's happening. I think a lot of experts in the field, doctors, educators, law enforcement people are being involved. Yeah, I think that that's the way to go. I'm not big on committees, so I'm just waiting for results. So as soon as they give me results, this summit, as I said earlier, was intended to say, look, we don't have enough resources to do what we need to do. So let's try to leverage the local, the county, the state, the federal, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, anyone that wants to help, let's get together. I've called governors and asked them if they have intel that can help us, particularly in Florida, because we know there are some pill mills in Florida. We're trying to identify them. So I'll do anything to reach out and try to get it done. As far as a comprehensive, I absolutely agree that it needs to be done. I certainly, the resources of it within the administration are available to help. The problem with comprehensive studies, it involves a lot of people means, takes a long time. And I want to start now to find some of these guys and get them off the streets because they kill people.
Governor, I wanted to say I really appreciate you coming in today.
It's my pleasure.
I trust we treated you fairly.
Very much so.
But no, really, I appreciate your viewpoint on the whole summit. You, as Representative Timberlake had said, more than one side, and appreciate hearing.
It was clearly intended to attack the supply side, because while I will agree, there's much more that needs to be done on the treatment side, and I think we can be much smarter on how we spend on treatment. I know that in the readings that I am doing and with other states, some of the states have inpatient facilities scattered around so people can go in for inpatient for the initial detox, and then they go into support groups. We don't have that here. We need to develop that, no question about it. So there's a lot of things we can do. Those will take a little bit more time, but when I say there's a pandemic of drugs, it is really bad. It's even worse. Every day I get more stories about how bad it is that I don't even anticipate.
I'm trying to bring this thing to a
Yeah,
close.
I
Okay.
Thank you, and since you're here, I just wanted to say, you talked about having your folks come and be treated with respect, and I agree with you. I would just say that we feel very passionate. You've talked about that in the past, but you're passionate about these issues, and sometimes your passion gets away with you. And I would say that if I have
It's just
someone...
I'm an ornery guy.
Yeah, I don't do that. But I feel it's my job when someone who is administering a department and spending taxpayer money, sometimes I have to ask tough questions. But I hope that even if we disagree, that that's not interpreted as disrespect. And I just wanted to just put the olive branch out there. If I have ever been disrespectful to any of your commissioners, I apologize wholeheartedly. And I do hope that this is a sign that we will continue to have these kind of dialogues. So thank you again.
I can honestly tell you your name has never come up.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Very well. Thank you.
We'll move on to cold case.
You mentioned the National Guard. They didn't ask you how those forces would be deployed. How would you do that?
I think I said through the state, I would use the state police, the DEA agents, the sheriff's department, and local law enforcement to see if they have holes and needs that they have. And we're going to try to put resources so that we can attack this full supply side of drugs.
What prompted you this morning to come in?
Because Commissioner Morris was not invited. And he is the guy that started this, and he happens to be out of state. I'm saying, this is strange. Why is this happening? So I came up to observe.
You did more than observe, though.
I had fun too.
Can you talk just a little bit about the price tag of this? You mentioned,
I don't know.
I don't know how much
I think what I said here this morning was I put up a budget. It was all in the budget. We can go pull it out and see how much it was. I know it was judges, DAs, and MDEAs. Right now, I really think MDEAs are really, really needed. It's a crisis out there. 43 med labs, that's pretty serious stuff. And one thing is a blessing, one hasn't exploded yet. But the odds are we're going to find ourselves in trouble sometime. We need to address this. And I'm going to be talking to the courts, asking them to get tougher on these guys. Make sure that if you come to Maine and want to make a profit, the payback's going to be hell.
Given the time that the Commissioner Morris and others have told us it takes to get these folks trained up and even find people who are right for this kind of work, do you think, it sounds like it takes a long time to actually get people in place doing the job?
It is. We have a significant shortage in the state of Maine right now. There are two things that are happening. One is the new millennial group of generation coming up are not apt to become, they don't volunteer to go into law enforcement as quickly as we'd like them. It used to be when state police would advertise, they'd get 100 applications. Now they're getting a quarter of that. And then you got to go through the whole process, and a lot of them fall out. And so the classes are smaller. And so it's a real problem. The other thing the state did is years ago, 20 years ago, they had big classes of 50 people. They all retire at the same time. So you create holes. So you're absolutely right. It takes a long time. I think one area that we're going to look at is veterans. Veterans that fought in recent wars, we're gonna see if we can attract some of the veterans to law enforcement and DEA. I'm gonna talk to other governors to see if we can borrow some for 6 months of contract. As I said earlier, contract. See if there aren't agents in other states that we could probably borrow through a contract. So there are different things that we can look at. But you're absolutely right, Don. It takes a long time to train people to do these jobs.
And in terms of National Guard, are you talking about potentially having National Guard soldiers in trooper cars or something like that?
If I have to.
What's your time frame for calling out the Guard if you
I'm
have
going to
to?
contact the legislature next week, see if they, like Senator Valentino said, if they want to come in on the 19th, fine, deal with the issue. But I'm telling you that I started this request in March of 2014. It's no longer a request. Now I'm going to have to do what I have to do to protect the Maine people.
Governor, what do you think, what's a good idea to fund this initiative? Like, where would the money come from in here?
Let me tell you something. For 5 years, I've been telling the legislature how to lower taxes, fund things, balance budgets, how to pay debt without increasing taxes, and they've never taken my suggestion. So I'm going to let them tell me.
A couple $1 million, probably. Anyway.
Oh, I think it's more than that. I think we're talking $5 or $6 million real quick for some judges and some DAs. And we've got to have a few of each, and a dozen, 10 DEAs. My number is about 10 DEA agents.
Do you remember what the cost of the initiative you had in the budget last year was? Just
I'd have
for
to go
comparison's
look.
sake? Okay.
But it's pretty, I think Senator Valentino is correct. It's probably about 70 grand
Per
person to bring on. That's without the cars and all the makeup and the undercover stuff.
Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, Governor.
Very well.